We're in a square pen here. You can call it that because it's square. It's much the same principle as a round pen. It's also got a post in the middle, so it's actually called a post pen. But the post can come into play and not come into play with some of what we do here. And the square corners are always in play because it really helps a horse learn how to turn a corner. Rachel and I learned this from Frank Barnett, who is a trainer here in Williston, Florida. And he learned it from a man named Harold Farron. And Harold Farron thought it up in California in the 70s. So while Harold was doing this in the 70s in California and he was 50 years old, I was in my 20s in Minnesota working for Jack Brainerd in a round pen. Same idea, but we'll show you in a little bit the differences. And I can remember Jack coming home from judging horse shows in California saying, man, those guys are doing something out there that we got to get figured out. Their horses are really bridled up. They really use their poll nicely. They've really got a control of them that we need to figure out. So 35 years later, we run on to Frank Barnett and we find out that some of it was this square pen that Harold Farron dreamed up out there. And he had a background in the circus, and so some of the Liberty stuff and all that he did come into play here. But actually, he thought of this to use on a Western pleasure horse that was cutting his corners. And back in my 20s and 30s, we trained a lot of pleasure horses as 2-year-olds because we didn't change the way they move to make them a pleasure horse back then, and so they would step right up into being a 3-year-old reining horse. So I did a lot of loping horses into a corner of an arena and stopping, or trotting in there and stopping and getting them to crave the corner, because that's the first step towards getting them to go into a corner without cutting it. So that's what we'll see here a little bit of, but it's something that we certainly did in an arena. When you wanted your horse on the rail and not wanted him to cut a corner, you would go into the corner and rest. So that's pretty simple, and that's a large part of the premise of this pen. The post pen is an extension. It requires a little more discipline to go up into those corners. But when you're working in a round pen and your horse cuts across the pen and doesn't go clear to the wall, you step into that spot and send him out a little more next time. Or if you're riding him, you drift him out a little more next time. And so that you find those spots in a round pen where the horse has trouble going to, and you correct him, you put him there, you ease him towards that thing. And then the discipline of a square pen or a post pen becomes real apparent, because they really have to load up and make it through those corners where it's all the same consistency in a round pen. It's canter, canter, load up, step up in front, turn. Canter, 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 load up, step up in front, turn. So it's an extension of the round pen, but we certainly do a lot in the round pen, and there's certainly nothing wrong with what goes on in there if you're understanding where your horse is looking and where you'd like him to step.